as the world remains captivated by the Titanic tourist submersible that went missing on Sunday, just 1 hour and 45 minutes after diving into the depths of the ocean. A search team is frantically continuing to look. Officials say it's believed that the submersible has run out of breathable air for the 5 people on board. From former divers weighing in to Cardi B sharing her take, Access Hollywood is breaking down this developing story.
For the last 72 hours, it's been hell for me.
Former ABC News science editor and Titanic diver Dr. Michael Guillen broke down while talking about the missing OceanGate submersible. The journalist joined ITV's This Morning on Thursday and reflected on his own life-threatening experience. He also cried as he spoke about the 5 people believed to be on board the currently lost vessel.
It's almost like I feel I'm down there with them. I know what they went through. I feel it. I'm very empathetic towards it. And I was hoping that they would experience that second chance at life that I did. And I almost feel guilty talking to you this morning about how I was given that second chance. But it's pretty remote that they're going to be given a second chance. And it's just a terrible way to go. My only hope and prayer is that they experience that sense of peace that I did when I was ready to let go of my life. That's the only thing that I cling to, but this has been hell.
Well, listen, we're so sorry.
It's almost like I'm down there with them.
I'm so sorry that this is all bringing it back for you, but thank you so much for sharing a story, because you're one of the only people.
I know.
We start every show with we can't imagine what they're going through, but you are one of the only people in the world that can imagine what they're going through, and so it's an incredible insight, and it's a very difficult one for you to share. But thank you so much for doing it.
Thank you. Yeah, your voice words.
His emotional moment comes after officials say they believe the submersible has run out of breathable air as the search for it continues. During the somber interview, Dr. Guillen explained the dangers he faced on his own journey to the Titanic wreckage.
We left from Halifax, Nova Scotia, parked above the point where the Titanic went down in the North Atlantic. The dive went beautifully, 2.5 hours down. We toured the bow to begin with. We had a moment of prayer to commemorate the memory of the people who lost their lives down there. That hit me really hard. And then the problem started when we started going towards the stern. You'll recall the Titanic broke into 2 pieces. The bow went straight down, the stern did a somersault, landed on its back, exposing the propeller. So my attention was on that propeller. It sticks out like a sore thumb. It's very shiny, very large compared to kind of the shades of gray that are down there. It's almost like being on the lunar surface. And then I sensed that my sub was accelerating, which struck me as odd. We should be decelerating. We're approaching this huge propeller. And I later found out that we got caught in an underwater current. They do exist down there, believe it or not. And it just slammed us right. And we somehow got wedged behind the blades of the propeller, which is much larger than our little sub, and the inverted poop deck. And we saw these huge chunks of the Titanic coming down on us. And we knew almost immediately, after a moment of confusion, like what just happened, like being in a car wreck. You're driving along 1 minute, it's a beautiful sunny day, everything is going well, and then boom, all of a sudden you're thrust into this, and like we all fell silent because we didn't want to disturb the pilot. He was at the edge of his seat at that point, really trying to communicate with the mothership in Russian. We didn't know what he was saying, but we could tell from the intonation of the voice that we were in real serious trouble.
Isn't it sad that you a whole billionaire and nobody gives a about you?
Cardi B is reacting to the reported news that the stepson of Hamish Harding, a billionaire said to be aboard the missing Titanic Submersible, went to a Blink-182 concert amid the search. On Wednesday, the rapper weighed in on Instagram about his relative's decision to attend the band's gig while authorities try to rescue the 5 missing people.
Okay, so one of the billionaires that's missing on the water from that submarine, one of the billionaires, their stepson, is at a concert, right? At a Blink-182 concert. And people is like, well, what is he supposed to do? Be sad at the house? Is he supposed to go look for himself? Yes. You're supposed to be at the house sad. You're supposed to be crying for me. You're supposed to be right next to the phone waiting to hear any updates about me. You're supposed to be counseling your mom and
The upsinger went on to reflect on the situation further.
Like, you missing and is ready to shake at concert. That's crazy. I'd rather be broke. I'd rather be broke than like and poor, but knowing that I'm loved. Like,
Brian Cizaz reportedly defended himself after facing backlash for going to the concert. According to E! News, he wrote in a since-expired Instagram story, Yes, I went to @Blink182 last night. What am I supposed to do, sit at home and watch the news? Not sorry, this band has helped me through hard times since 1998. The search team, frantically looking for the Titanic-bound submersible, has reported hearing banging noises. The crew reports the sounds were coming in 30-minute intervals and were still heard 4 hours later, according to CNN. The official 1st Coast Guard District Twitter account clarified the news early Wednesday morning, saying, Canadian P-3 aircraft detected underwater noises in the search area. As a result, ROV operations were relocated in an attempt to explore the origin of the noises. Those ROV searches have yielded negative results, but continue. The update comes after the U.S. Coast Guard reported that the 5 people on the vessel had less than 40 hours of breathable air as of Tuesday around 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Access Hollywood heard directly from someone who took a similar journey with OceanGate last year, CBS News journalist and Unsung Science podcast host David Pogue.
OceanGate Expeditions offers you the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
Who are the typical clientele for these missions? We've had people who have mortgaged their home to come and do the trip. We had one gentleman who had won the lottery.
OceanGate, the company behind the current underwater mission, successfully reached the Titanic for the first time in 2021. It's a dive that takes you down 2.5 miles to view the ship's remains in a carbon fiber submersible. The cost? $250,000. David Pogue from CBS News was a bit nervous when invited to go along last year.
An experimental submersible vessel that has not been approved or certified by any regulatory body and could result in physical injury, disability, emotional trauma, or death. Where do I sign?
We spoke with Pogue today about his expedition.
I was really terrified the night before, mainly because there were so many things that I thought could go wrong. I was reassured the more I got to know this submersible, how many safety checks, how many checklists, how many inspections. By the time we got in the sub, I was really excited.
Oh, take your shoes off, that's customary.
The inside of the submersible is about the size of a minivan, seating 5 people, no chairs. It takes 10 to 12 hours to go down to the seafloor, tour the Titanic, and return to the surface. At the time of his trip, Pogue reported on some of the pieces of the sub which seemed improvised. He questioned OceanGate CEO Stockton Rush, who is now reported to be on the missing vessel.
We run the whole thing with this game controller.
This submersible has some elements of MacGyver-y jerry-riggedness.
I don't know if I'd use that description of it. The pressure vessel is not MacGyver at all, because that's where we work with Boeing and NASA and the University of Washington. Everything else can fail. Your thrusters can go, your lights can go, you're still going to be safe.
There is no GPS underwater. The surface ship guides the sub to the shipwreck by sending text messages.
My expedition last summer, on the 4th day, a team went to the bottom and got lost for 2 or 3 hours, meaning they were driving around in the dark and couldn't find the Titanic, but they were still in communication with the ship. I will say that OceanGate is a safety culture, and they have this 3 strikes rule. If 3 things go wrong, no matter how tiny, the dive is aborted.
Oh, look at that.
Titanic director James Cameron has taken a similar dive. He went back to see the Titanic's remains for a second time following the release of the film in 1997. This time, he took along its star Bill Paxton and filmed it for the 2003 documentary Ghosts of the Abyss.
It's dangerous. You'd have to be thoughtless not to really appreciate just how deep you're going.
Pretty cool.
I always tell people that the first hour, I actually thought I was going to die. And I was afraid I was going to die, and then the second hour I was afraid I wasn't going to die because it was so miserable.
Such an awful story. We're going to, of course, continue to monitor this story for you.